Hey everyone, my name is Tristan and welcome to my workshop. In this video, I'll show you how you can make your own Phase 2 Clone Trooper helmet out of EVA foam using pre-made templates. If you want to follow along, the templates are available for purchase on my Etsy store for pretty cheap. So let's not waste any time and get right into the build. The first step is to purchase and print out the templates. I print mine at 100% scale and my head is almost 23 inches. To cut out the templates, you can either use scissors or a sharp craft knife. Paper templates are pretty thin and flimsy, so before cutting out mine, I back them with duct tape. Make sure you keep those two pieces so you remember what angles to cut and what thickness of foam to use. Now put your templates aside and only take out the ones that are not 6mm foam. You should have the 4 you see on screen. The first piece to make is this one, and it's a 15mm round cap that goes on the back of the helmet. I don't have 15mm thick foam, so I'm gonna sandwich a 10 and a 5mm piece together. The glue I'm using is contact cement. I apply glue to both pieces and I spread it out with a scrap piece of foam. Then I let the glue dry for a minute and adhere my pieces together. Now trace down your templates to your foam using a pen or a Sharpie. Then cut it out. You can use a craft knife, but I'm going to use a sharpened PVC pipe. We want our piece to have a bevel all around, so trace a smaller circle on it and then cut it out with a sharp box cutter. The cut might be pretty rough, so start sanding down the edges. Then take out your heat gun and soften up your piece a bit. When you're done, roll the piece on your table. This should remove the remaining texture. Notice on the template that there's a line going across the cap piece. This is supposed to be a nice V-groove which you can cut with your craft knife. Then for the 2 holes, just use the tip of a screwdriver and drill it into your piece. And now you have a nice cap piece. Our second piece is 10mm thick and you need 2 of them. You want the second one to be a mirror image of the first, so trace it down to your foam with a Sharpie, then flip the template and trace it again. Then take out your box cutter and cut both pieces out. Don't forget that one of the sides has to be an outward angle cut. The dotted line on the template represents the end of a shallow inward angle cut. Use a Sharpie to transfer the line to the backside of your pieces. Then carefully cut out that angle starting on the line and ending at the corner of the opposite side of the piece. With that done, those 2 pieces are finished. Now let's make the fin that goes on the top of the helmet. You'll need 8mm foam to make it. Simply trace your template down to the foam and cut the piece out. You can use a metal ruler to keep your cut straight. The template indicates that each end needs an inward angle cut and it has to be very shallow, so cut it out the same way you did earlier with the box cutter. The fin has a thin line along each side. To make those, you can cut out long strips out of 2mm foam. Because they're such small pieces, you can glue them down with super glue. Make sure they're completely straight and then cut off the excess length on each end. Now you have an awesome fin piece to go on top of your helmet. The final piece that's not 6mm foam you'll have to make is this one. It's made from 2mm foam. Because the template is so flimsy, I secure it to my foam with sewing pins. Then, as with every other piece, I trace it down with a Sharpie and then cut it out using a craft knife. Don't forget you need 2 of them, one being a mirror image of the other. Now let's make the ear caps out of 8mm foam. Just like the first piece we made, I use a sharpened PVC pipe to cut perfect circles. Then you have to trace a smaller circle on both pieces to create a bevel with a sharp knife. Just like the first piece we made, remove the imperfections by sanding down the cut edges, then heat it up and roll the piece on your table. To make the little panels, you'll need 2mm foam. They're really simple shapes so you can make them freehand. To glue all those small pieces together, you can use super glue. Then you can glue the panels to the ear caps. And finally, use contact cement to glue the caps to the bigger 2mm pieces. Now that we're done with the four most complex pieces, let's get to the more simple ones. Make sure you have all the pieces shown on screen right now. For all those pieces, I recommend using 6mm foam, but you can use 5mm if you want. Now starts the long and tedious process of tracing down every single template piece to your foam. Every piece that says mirror on this line has to be flipped over on that line and then traced again on the other side. Also, every right side piece has to be flipped and traced again to get the left side. When you're done, this is what you should end up with. Now it's time to cut your pieces. Keep this legend close to use it as a reference to cut the right angles in your foam. Make sure you use a very sharp blade for the entire process. You need every cut to be as clean as possible. This process takes a while, but you'll get better results if you take your time. When you're done, make sure you have every piece you see on screen. Before assembling anything, we'll have to do some scoring. Follow the lines on this piece, but only cut about halfway through. Then, take out your heat gun and go over the lines you just scored. They should open up, revealing cool panel lines. Those two pieces have flaps that need to fold up, so you'll have to score the backside. Take out a pen and transfer the lines to the backside of your piece. Then follow the lines with your craft knife, but this time score about 3/4 of the way through. That should let the pieces fold together just like this. The last step before assembly is heat forming. Some of those pieces need a simple or compound curve, and you can achieve that result by heating up your pieces with a heat gun and then forming them with your hands or the backside of a screwdriver. It's finally time to build the helmet. The first part you'll have to make is the dome, and you'll need the 4 pieces you see on screen. By the way, pretty much every part of the helmet will be glued using contact cement. Start by gluing together one side of the helmet, then do the same for the other side. When you're done, glue both sides together to complete the dome. Now let's connect the front and back together. Watch closely to see where the glue is applied because it's not specified in the templates. Wait a minute and then stick both pieces together. Line them up as shown on screen. Start by gluing the front and make your way to the back. Don't stretch the pieces, it's okay if they don't line up with the line you drew earlier. At the back you might have excess foam, just trim it down with a craft knife. Now let's make the recessed panels on the cheeks, and I won't show the process of applying the glue anymore because it's pretty self-explanatory. Stretching the upper piece when gluing it down to the rest of the assembly will help it line up better and create a steeper angle. Now stick the cheek panels to the faceplate. You'll have to stretch them a bit to get them to fit properly. Time to glue the dome to the rest of the helmet. Start by lining up the front and work your way back. The front seam doesn't have to look good because it's gonna get covered anyway. When gluing the back, you can insert paper between both pieces so they don't stick together all at once. Time to make the rounded rim that goes under the back plate and the faceplate. Simply glue the upper and lower parts together for the left and the right side. Then connect both sides together to form one long piece. Then attach the rim to the helmet. Make sure to glue it on the back plate instead of under it. To give the helmet a more rounded shape, attach that smaller rim under the rounded piece you previously glued on. You can stretch and compress your pieces to make the helmet rounder and more symmetrical. It's time for my favorite part, the front vents assembly. Start by gluing the upper and lower vent pieces together for the left and the right side, and then connect them one at a time to the centerpiece, some stretching required. Now close up the vents to make them look just like this. Let's attach the vents to the helmet. Line up the left side as seen on screen and then use a Sharpie to mark the position of your piece. Do this on each side. Now use super glue to tack down each end of that centerpiece to the front plate. When that's done, use hot glue to secure the side vents in place on your helmet. At this point, the helmet still looks kinda weird, and that's okay. The final pieces will bring everything together nicely, starting with the mustache looking piece. Carefully connect it to the center and work your way out. Make sure both sides are symmetrical because if they're not, it's gonna be very visible. The helmet already looks much better, but you need a piece to fill this gap. Cut yourself a piece that looks like this and stick it inside the helmet. This piece is not in the templates because depending on its length, it's gonna drastically change the look of the helmet, and I want you to decide how your helmet looks. It's time for the details, starting with the fin you made earlier. Simply attach it over the center seam of the dome, 2 inches higher than the visor. Now for the earpieces, stick them down carefully as shown on screen. Then, for the back details, glue those 3 pieces together, keeping their backside completely flush. And finally, carefully and slowly stick them down to the helmet, starting with the center and making your way outwards. Cut yourself a very long piece, 5mm wide out of 5mm foam, and glue it all the way around the helmet, starting at the front and making your seams dead center in the back. Remove the excess foam with a knife. Now let's glue on that cap piece we made earlier. As you can see, it doesn't fit flush, so we'll need a 5mm filler piece just like the one you see on screen. We still need to remove a part of that trim piece we just glued on, so take out your box cutter and remove the undesired section of foam from your helmet. Now you can glue the filler piece to the cap piece and finally glue this assembly to the helmet. Now glue 9 pieces of 2mm foam under the visor to make the teeth. I used super glue. I used a part of a pen and 2 small strips of foam to create the detail that goes right there, and I secured it with super glue. And finally, to make the side vents, I used spray paint caps and super glue caps which I cut up and glued together. Then I roughed up their surface, applied super glue and slid them into the helmet. I used hot glue to fill the remaining gaps. As you can see, the helmet is still lumpy in some places. You can correct that by heating it up with your heat gun and forming your helmet to your liking. The last step, which you don't have to do but gives the helmet a sleeker look, is to round off some edges with your rotary tool. You can also sand down your seams to level them a bit. And finally, heat seal your work so it's ready for priming. And now you have your own foam clone trooper helmet. So this is the final result. Now it's far from finished. It still has to be primed and painted, which I'll show you how to do in my next video. For my Stormtrooper helmet build, I tried to keep it as clean and glossy as I could, but this one, I'm gonna weather it. So this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, you can leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more cool stuff like this. If you want to build this helmet, you can purchase the templates on my Etsy store. I also sell other templates and finished helmets, all for pretty cheap. So if you want to support my channel, purchasing my templates or a helmet is the best way to do that. Also, I have an Instagram account where I post cool things that don't always make it into my videos. If you want to check it out, the link is in the description below. If you want to build a Clone Trooper helmet, but you're more interested by the Phase 1, Cosplayer Furnace has an awesome video showing you exactly how to build one. Also, he has templates. The video is right there. He's a great guy with an awesome channel and amazing templates for everyone, so go check him out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!